Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 20 playthrough with the Phillies. We're getting ready to start spring training for the 2039 season, so we're pretty far ahead into the future. Probably my 23rd season, 24th season, something like that. We finished the off season. Hopefully, if you got a chance to see the last episode where I went through some of the moves that I made this off season, hopefully you're going to be pretty excited like I am for this Phillies team this year. I'm hoping that, this year, I think we're due, but there's some good signs here that I'm liking. But I'm going to start just to give you a good idea. I like this screen, the off-season summary by team screen. I think it gives you a good idea how you stack up with competition in terms of the pickups and moves you made in the off-season. And just to get right to it, for the first time maybe ever, certainly in this playthrough that I remember, we had the best offseason of any team in Major League Baseball based on wins above replacement gained. 9.7, almost double the next team on the list. You have to go down to the 17th spot with the Braves, who are -3, to find another team in that National League East who were close to us. And every team in the East had a negative turnover in terms of wins above replacement this offseason. Again, I'm hoping that's a good sign. We made some good moves. One of the commenters on my channel, I think Christian, who made a comment, a good one, it's like this starting pitcher that I picked up this offseason is maybe the number one starter I've been looking for on this team for several years, and I'm hoping that he settles into that. And he's fairly young. I'm hoping that he settles into it for the next few years. But it was Nate McAfee. Even though his wins above replacement may not show it, I do think this was the best signing I had this offseason. He's a 4.5-star pitcher, starting pitcher, 3 strong pitches. His stuff, movement, control, all look pretty good. Movement, not great. He's going to give up a lot of home runs, but he's also going to strike out a lot, and hopefully he's going to give me a decent amount of innings. He's listed as fragile, but when I went through the deliberations in signing him, I looked here, and he's got 5 straight seasons now where he's had 32 or more starts. So I think hopefully that injury proneness of fragile came early in his career when he was just starting out, just about to make the majors full time, either in spring training or maybe start of the season. He got an injury, kept him out 5 months. But since then, it's been a week, 1 or 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Hasn't been injured since 2037. He hasn't missed any real big time since then. I'm hoping that's a good sign. I signed him for 5 years with really the first 2 years are even better. I mean, $14.5 million helped free up some space this year if I needed it. So great signing there. Some of the other ones that you may have seen last episode, I got Mike Morrison, a pretty decent reliever. I got Steve Bond, who is a true defensive center fielder that I haven't had in a while. I was going with Vargas primarily, and he has really just slipped off the ratings he had when he first started at center, and he was a liability at center. But this guy's pretty decent. I know he's 32, 33 years old, but I got him for $6 million. I think he can still be a pretty decent leadoff hitter. Last year wasn't a bad year for him overall. 4+ ones above replacement. He's still got some speed. I like that pickup. I also picked up Jonathan Lockhart, who just a 2.5-star guy, but he's got some power, good defender, can play several positions really, has great personality. Picked him up for $6 million, not too bad. I think he's going to be a close replacement for Lowman, who I lost. He's been in my starting third baseman for several years, but he was wanting, I'm sure, way too much money, and he opted out of his final year of the contract. And then the last pick that I made offline that I'm really excited about, this is a shortstop that I had on this team several years ago, Wenciel Perez. Great defensive shortstop. You can see 5-time Gold Glove Award winner. He's also fragile, so that is kind of a gamble. And I think in some ways his injury proneness might come from when he was with this Phillies team. A few years ago, he got injured in spring training, missed all of 2034. But I really wanted to keep this guy. I just couldn't re-sign him at the money he was wanting. He was a 4+ wins above replacement player for me both years he was on the team, scores a lot of runs, has great speed. He's not that player anymore, I know, but he was a definite upgrade for me at shortstop. Got some great leadership. He's had a great career, I think. Kind of puts me in mind, almost, except for maybe the strikeouts, puts me in mind, honestly, of Ozzie Smith. You know, maybe not quite the defender that Ozzie Smith was, but I think offensively gives you those kind of numbers. But I'm really excited about that because I was, and I mentioned it, I think, at the tail end of that last episode. If there was one position that I was really still hesitant about and feeling kind of iffy about, it was shortstop. I'm hoping this is the final piece of the puzzle here that it'll help put me over the top. So I wanted to go looking at the home screen just to give you an idea of a few things. Well, not that one. Let me go to my manager's home screen. We still have some money available for free agents. I think that's a pretty decent thing when you look at who we signed. I mean, we got that big of a gain in wins above replacement. We still got $14 million to play around with. If we look at how it plays out on the team, this pitching staff is heavy for me. I usually I know you can go up to 60 players. I usually stick to 35 or below. I've got 38 in spring training right now. But starting rotation, I go with a 6-man rotation in the spring. It's going to be led by McAvee. Mayhew, just a 2.5-star pitcher, but he's a true starting pitcher because he's got 3 solid pitches, good stamina. Coming off a 14-win solid season, 4.5 wins above replacement. I've got Barbarossa right now, another kind of similar. He's a 3-star, but he's picked up a notch in the offseason. Doesn't look as good in OSA, but I think this guy can be a good starter. And then I'm going to ease one more year, easing Contreras and Dion, who at one point were my 2 biggest pitching prospects in my system. Dion coming off a really, I think, solid rookie campaign. Still has some room to grow, just 25 years old. He's got 5 pitches, 3 of them really solid. I think that would round out the starting rotation. But then I've got Kurt Hines, who at times has been pretty good himself. Last year, 9 wins, 3.52 ERA. He was fairly consistent. But having him as either a backup or a starter, really even any one of these final 4, it's going to depend, I think, on how they do in the spring. But having any one of those guys as an extra starter or emergency starter and pitching long relief would be good. And then the rest of that bullpen, Condeshera looks good. Guy picked up last year from Kansas City. Some good 3-stars here in the mix. A few 2.5 stars that might help out. But Mendoza, I think, is coming close to being one of the best closers in the game. He's going to be free agent this year. I got to decide. Well, it says he signed through 2039. So, yeah, I'm thinking this is his year to go free agency. I'd like to keep him. Joe Scott's been a good one, I think. He's still got some development room. 5 pitches, 4 of them really solid. So the pitching staff looks good. Mike Morrison, I think, hopefully was a good pickup. He's coming off a good year. Wants to be a closer, though. It's the only thing. I hope he doesn't give me problems in terms of his attitude on the team. But I've got several guys setting up, some middle relief, long relief. I've got a pretty decent mix-up here. Lucina is going to be a guy I traded with in the tail end of last season. He looks really good against lefties. I don't know if I'll have room for him on that final roster, but man, it would be nice to have that kind of guy as a lefty specialist, which is what he's going to be in the spring. And then on the lineup side, hoping that Ian Norman, who was my highest draft pick so far in this playthrough, second pick overall in 2034, I'm hoping he's going to develop a little bit more. I'd like to see him develop, honestly, a better arm. His position rating is okay, but I usually like to see somebody in the green when it comes to the position and defensive ratings at catcher, but offensively, I'm hoping he has another good year. We got Gordon, hopefully healthy this year. Koopman will be back at second. His ratings don't reflect, I think, how good a player he is. He's got some speed. He always hits for high average, decent defense. And then Perez at short with Eubanks, a guy I picked up last season, backing up. I think he's 25 years old. Perez may be just kind of a stopgap for the next year or two. If this guy can develop into a 3.5-star player, he will be my future starter at short. Even OSA likes him even more. They've got him at a potential 4-star. He's got great defense and speed. I like that. But then outfield, Portillo, hoping he has a better year this year. Bond, and then I'm going to go with Aguirre, at least against righties for right now. With lefties, I guess the jury will be out. I'm going to have to go with him against lefties too. His ratings aren't too bad. I mean, a lot have been in the green against lefties, so we'll see how that pans out. In all honesty, if I've got a real weakness, it's probably those corner positions, just depending on how Portillo plays and how Aguirre handles full-time. And I don't really have too much going in the minors, to be honest, at this point. I'll have a lot of pitchers I can call down, I'm sure, but I'm not going to have too much offensively to play around with, I think, when it comes to who makes the team, who makes the cut, who doesn't. Romero, another guy I'm giving a look at in spring training at third. He might have some possibility in the future. I think he's more than likely going to be a bench player. And he's never played higher than AA, but he's one of those players who, one of the things I think is a good indicator. You can look at all the ratings, all the scouting reports you want to, but I think one of the best indicators of how good a player is going to be is when you look at how he performs whenever he's called up in the minors. And he was called up only once in midseason, and that was a short time in rating or in 2037. I don't really count that too much, but these other seasons here, he's looked good really at every stop in the majors, and honestly gotten better, I think, in some cases as he's gone along. So that could be a good sign for him. He might, get him some playing time in the majors, and he might develop further there. But that's the setup. I'm going to go ahead and get things started. We'll sim a week at a time until we get to maybe a good stopping point, and then we'll see how the team looks. I'm going to stick with my starting rotation right now. I don't know that I could get that guy anyway, but we'll see what I got. Stick with what I have. Already getting a trade proposal from the White Sox. Bushrod, who could be a starter. He's rated as a reliever for Hannibal. Hannibal, he was kind of out of place last year, but he looked pretty good in a September call-up when I had some injuries. I'm going to keep him. So we're 2-1, maybe 3-1 now. And Ken Dion, some positive news for him. I still think, with his stuff and control, those are two good. That's a good combination. I really hope this guy keeps it up. But he's working on some charity initiatives. That's pretty cool. And then Minnesota wants to trade me a pitcher for Hannibal. So Hannibal getting some interest here. He might be one of those guys that when spring ends, I might, if I'm needing some offensive help, I might shop him around, see what happens. I like that he's getting some interest, though. All right, so another talent sweep. Yeah. Not much to get excited about there. So we're 4-1, 5-1. Looking pretty good so far. That's a minor's injury. I do have the notifications on for that. I'm pretty, I like to control just about everything in this playthrough. A starter for Ian Norman. I'm going to stick with Norman. That would leave me so weak at catching, it would be a mistake. All right, so we really need the team's help from Ken Dion. So I get started charity or give a donation. Let me see. I got some money. I'll give a donation. Another trade proposal to catcher. Pretty decent catcher. Better defensive catcher than Norman, but I'm going to give Norman some time, and I'm not going to give up on Mendoza. He's a guy I need at least for the rest of this season. All right, so we're starting out pretty solid. Atlanta, pretty decent injury there for them. He was probably going to be, I would think, in their starting rotation, so he's gone for the year. So we are 8-3, about halfway through spring training. We have the best record in the National League, tied with Detroit for the best record in the majors. Now, I'm going to look at, just to see how some of these guys are doing. You have to go into, they changed it up a little bit to see your spring training stats this year. You have to go under split, game type, look at spring training. So yeah, that's falling about where I thought it would in terms of the starting rotation. Of the 6 pitchers, Kurt Hines, who have currently got 6, is struggling the most. Got a lot of zeros here in the bullpen. Still early, I know, but man, Mendoza looking pretty good. And then on the lineup side, Ian Norman hitting 370. Good start for him. Koopman, 469. Lockhart, he's got some time to grow into it, though. Perez, not hitting too well. Portillo's struggling. Bond looking good. And I do have Bond start leading off against lefties and righties. And then Aguirre not having a great spring so far. We're starting to lose. 8-5, 9-5. Braves overtook us. And here's the first big injury. And it's going to be a big one. Randy Mayhew out for 2 to 3 months. It's going to happen. I mean, that's the way this game goes. But I feel like I've got the depth here. Matter of fact, I would probably just move these guys around and try Hannibal in that 6th spot. I mean, there's the other guys I could probably go with. I think he's an emergency starter who, you know, if I needed him, I think he could probably jump in there as well. Lugo, I think, is a starter for the most part, although I don't know if he'll make the team finally, but that was a big. I don't really want to overlook that. That was a big injury, but it's going to help. Okay. And it was an off-the-field mishap. A broken hand while slipping on an oil slick. What the heck? Definitely don't need that kind of an injury. This is when we got so much on the line. All right, trade proposal from Houston, a pitcher for Ian Norman. This guy's a good-looking starting pitcher. I'm not gonna lie. But I don't want to trade away a 5-star catcher. Those are tough to come by. They really are. All right, so spring coverage, we're 11-6, still pretty solid. I'm gonna look to see if there are any starters left. There's Joe Duncan. Yeah, not a great personality rating. And honestly, he just only has 2 good pitches. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of wondering, should I go for this guy? But I think I'm going to gamble. I think I'm going to go with the depth that I have. And Mayhew would... Oh, that scared me. just a day-to-day. Mayhew should be back, I guess, around May, June, something like that. So if the rest of the team can pick it up, I mean, I think we can overcome that one. Let me see. So there was another injury here too. This is to Hobbs, who great defensive backup, good speed. Let me see how he was doing in the spring. Was looking pretty good. 5 weeks. Hopefully he won't be too impacted by that. But it does, it does kind of point to what I was talking about earlier. We're really slim in an outfield. And I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I like to go with 13 position players. It's going to be one of these catchers. Mendoza more than likely. Romero I'll probably give some time. And, I say that, at this point, Singel, I don't know. That's such a gamble. I like Singel's speed and leadership, but his bat's just not doing too well. But I'll have to go with Jeremy Tuck in the outfield now, and at least until I forgot the guy's name now, but he gets back off of injury. He's just not going to get much starting time against lefties because he's a lefty, and his ratings against lefties not so good. He's definitely a platoon player. All right, so where are we now? Go through next week. Still having a pretty decent spring. 14-8, just a game behind Atlanta. I'm kind of surprised at Atlanta. I mean, they've got some injuries to contend with, but they do have also pretty deep a deep lineup, and they've got Brandon Kinsler, one of the best players in the game. They had a few good pitchers like Magoya, who I believe he was the Cy Young last year. So they got Magoya, Hacker, I think is pretty good. They've got a better pitching staff than we do. So you can't dismiss them as a team. There's no question about that. I mean, and Cecchinato, who got injured, 3-star starting pitcher, but they've got guys here better than him already in that rotation. And another starting pitcher. All right, so we may have the best record in baseball now. And we've got a trade proposal, catcher for catcher. Wow. No to that. So I'm going to finish this day just to get... So we lost to Washington, but we did finish well ahead of Atlanta. We had the best record in the National League and tied with Boston and Chicago for the best record in all of baseball. A good spring. Hopefully that was a sign of things to come. Pitching staff. I'm going to have some things here to decide. And man, look at that starting pitching. Solid from number 1 to number 6. I mean, Hannibal came in and his 2 starts must have been good because his numbers look good now. So I got a big decision to make there. Alvarado finally put together. He was sketchy for me last year, but I like this guy. I like his stuff, and that curveball is pretty good. He had a great spring. Bunker might be definitely on the bubble. This guy, hard to say his name, I'm going to keep because of his numbers. He had a great season for me last year. Pretty poor spring, though, but several guys here didn't even give up a run. Lugo looked good. He's another guy, like I said, who could start if I needed him to. Wow, Scott looked good. I've got some tough decisions to make here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I think that's 21, 22 that I'm counting. I've got 10 pitchers to move down to the majors or the minors. And more than likely, with some of the ratings these guys have, I'm going to lose some. When if I have to put any of them on waivers, they're going to be snatched up, I'm pretty sure. So that's a good thing to have in some cases, but really I don't want to lose that depth. It might come down to me just having to go through here and, with all the numbers being somewhat equal, I might have to send down a guy who's got some option years left just to keep from losing him right now. But then on the lineup side, Ian Norman struggled after starting out hot. Rutherford will be the backup, so I can say right now that Mendoza is going to go back to AAA. 10, 11, 12, 13. So I got one guy to take down, and Dante Eubanks didn't have a good spring as well. Perez, I'm expecting some injuries here and there through the year. He didn't have a great spring, but hopefully over the course of the year he'll give me a decent output, kind of what I'm looking for. Bond had a great spring. Portillo, not so much. Aguirre, not so much. Those guys could wind up being platooned a little bit more with Tuck. If against righties, I may have to wind up playing Tuck more than I thought. But the offense is fairly set for now, and I'll sim ahead until we get to the offline. I'll sim to that start of the season, and that's when you'll see a lot of guys dumped on the waiver wire, including probably some from my pitching staff. But I'll look and see if there's anything there too to round out the offense. I wouldn't mind, now that I'm looking at how this team's shaping up, another decent outfielder might be good. But I'm seeing a lot of 2-star players here. This guy, I like his contact and gap power, avoiding K, speed. Corner defense is pretty adequate. And he's 32. He has played some time in the majors, including several seasons when he was a starter. But as a starter, he hasn't looked too great. So I don't know. I don't know if that's somebody I want to put too much money into, really. But I am a little bit thin, like I said. Cordray, guy, he's never really, even though he's got good individual ratings, he has never turned that on when he's, I say that, but like September call-up here, he hit 379. But he's struggled the last 2 years in the minors. I don't think he's going to be someone I can really count on too much. His defense is really shoddy too. And then when you look at what I got going in AA, I've got some guys here at Benefield and Villalobos. Hopefully they'll have a good season in AA and produce. I think Benefield's got a chance of being a starter in a couple years, at least going to get a chance to get some spring training time. One of my better prospects left now. But that's how it looks ending up in spring training. I'm going to do like I usually do. I'll do all the roster management stuff offline and then get us set to go. I'm hoping this spring is a showcase, or definitely hope it's a prediction of how we're going to do this year. Injuries, bummer, but like I say, Mayhew 8 to 9 weeks, so that would put him into April, May. He might be back starting by June if I need him. That starting staff looked really good in the spring. And then Tim Hobbs, definitely need his bat, and defense, speed, everything. He's got a few weeks left, but hopefully he'll come back okay. I think this year we can compete, but man, Atlanta does scare me. But that's going to be it for this episode. Hope you enjoy it. Appreciate the comments as always, and subscriptions. And I'll see you next episode when we get this season started. Thanks.